Hi guys, welcome back to the Barber Coach TV. And today I'm over the moon and excited to be interviewing Stephen Marinaro, the Salon Guy. He's huge on YouTube. He's blowing up on social media. He's been in the game for a very, very long time. And I used to actually watch Stephen's videos as I was coming through in the industry and learning. So I'm over the moon and I'm blessed to have him here with us. So Stephen, are you okay?
I'm great. I'm very flattered that you said that. I didn't know you watched my videos, and it turns out that I guess people do watch my videos. Especially when they're starting out in the industry. But that's very kind of you to say, and thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for being with us, mate. And when I seen you pop up in my Instagram asking if I wanted to speak with you, I was like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this because I wanted you to speak on my platform, and the fact that you came to me first was mind blowing for me because I've been watching you on YouTube for a long time, mate.
Yeah, thank you. I've actually been on YouTube. It's almost 15 years.
Wow.
And I was probably one of the first people in the salon industry because I'm a hairstylist. I'm not a barber, and a lot of people mistake me as a barber. I can do men's haircuts, and I'm retired now from seeing clients, but I mean I've worked in salons and I'm great at cutting men's hair, and I'm kind of like a hybrid, but I technically I'm a hairstylist, and I was one of the first people in the salon industry, which I've been in over 30 years now, to create a YouTube channel. And YouTube was so new back then. It wasn't even about hair cutting. When I first started posting videos, it was like more motivational stuff, like how to find the right salon to work in, how to give better customer service. And then one day somebody asked me, I left a comment, do you cut hair? And I'm like, yeah, I cut hair. And they're like, well, can we watch you? I'm like, who wants to watch a bald guy cut hair on the internet? So millions and millions of people, have watched me. And I guess, and my initial goal was, because this was so new, was really to inspire people. And I had a goal of one. And I was like, if I can inspire one person or get, one person to like my videos and watch and comment, and nobody really has a goal of one, and that was my goal. And then I started a Facebook page, and you're up to, 9 likes on your Facebook page. And I'm, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And back then it was really about the number of people and the people that made up that number, because it was such a small group. And it's like I could even say their name, everyone by name, because at that point it was such a small community, but it was like everybody wanted to see what I had to offer. And then that's when I had no idea what I was like, am I a blogger? Content creator didn't even exist, that
Hmm.
term, I guess. And it was just a matter of, putting myself out there. And then it went from me making tutorials to then I said, I want to be like a media personality. I want to be, we have here Ryan Seacrest, someone on TV, a kind of a TV host. I want to do that for the salon industry. And then that's what kind of, and we'll talk about this more in depth, but that's kind of what led me into expanding my content and becoming more of a media guy and going to red carpet events and doing all in TV and all that kind of stuff, mixed in with the hair cutting and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's amazing, mate. Fair play. Well, I got to be honest with you. Before I got qualified about 10 years ago, I'd been cutting hair for another 12 to 13 years before that, self-taught. And I was cutting hair before YouTube was even a thing. And I just used to practice on my head, my parents' head, my brother's head. And I would go around different barber shops and watch what they were doing on my hair and watch what they were doing on other people's hair to pick up tips and tricks for them. So when YouTube came out, and I started seeing there was people on there teaching cutting tutorials and things. Yours was one of the first ones I came across, and I kept watching it for a long time. And then once I got qualified and I started winning a few competitions, I tried doing YouTube myself, but I didn't quite have the technology. I didn't have the background. I didn't really have the experience. But back then, even without all of that, my videos were still hitting 40, 50,000 views, which I thought, wow, this is amazing. But as the industry sort of started developing, I started focusing more on my shops or my businesses and on cutting rather than teaching. Then I won a few more awards and was invited to go and teach people in person. I was traveling the country teaching in person. I kind of neglected my YouTube. Then my experience changed and my ability changed and my cutting process changed. So everything that I had on YouTube sort of embarrassed me a little bit, and I deleted it all. And only a couple of years ago, I decided to give it another go. Now that I was teaching more regularly, I had my sort of methods structured and in place, and I was happy with how I delivered my teaching. I've gone back to YouTube to try and reach an audience. And I found that it's very, very different now to what it was 10 years ago. And I'm not quite in the numbers that I was. And my knowledge, my vision, my picture, my technology is so much better. And I still can't hit the numbers. So how are you finding YouTube now as it's developed?
Oof, boy, what you're saying. I'm literally feeling your frustration as we speak, and I'm hearing you, and I'm like, wow. And it's true. It's like some of my highest viewed videos are from, you know, 13, 14 years ago. And, I always say it's kind of like they're like the hit records of an 80s hit record where they're collecting royalties from, something that launched so many years ago. And so a lot of my top earning videos are still from a long time ago, mixed in with newer stuff. So I have over 2,600 videos on my YouTube channel.
Oh,
And yeah, at one point, I was even recently posting 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and I had that schedule very consistently. And I was doing that very purposely because I feel that YouTube is a part of my income, and I felt that I had to keep up with a certain amount of content in order to even maintain that income.
mm,
So I'm gonna dissect this into a few things. So like when it comes to income on YouTube, I mean, there's a lot of people that, I mean, they're making maybe a couple $100 a month on YouTube, to people making millions and millions a month on YouTube and or millions a year on YouTube. And it's something that I've had my ups and downs, and I've been happy with making what I've been making off of YouTube. It has dipped down quite a bit, and it is very challenging because a lot of people think I'm going to create a YouTube channel and become super rich and famous, and that's not the case. And I see so many people putting out such amazing quality content. They do this every single day, and they're living off of getting like live tips of like $6 and this and that. So the income has kind of remained somewhat stagnant and even dipped a little bit for me. However, there's a flip side to that too. Now, when it comes to the views and stuff like that, my views have been absolutely atrocious. They've dropped and tanked like you could not even believe because of even me trying to change up my content. And the only thing that saves me is when I post, other forms of content like YouTube Shorts, where I'm getting, tens and tens of thousands of views. I'll post a video that'll still to this day get a couple 100,000 views, or I'll post a video that's like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, which is like a complete dud to me. But what works for me, and this is the frustrating part, what works for me is the same videos that I have done 18,000 videos of over and over, and people want the same things. So they come to me as a hair expert. I've lost a lot of that professional audience because I've shifted so much to direct to consumer. They're the ones buying my hair products. The stylists and barbers aren't buying my hair products. And I never wanted to target that audience knowing how competitive it was. I used to work for L'Oreal and Paul Mitchell, as an educator. I know that realm. I know the salon industry. I know about retail. So hairstylists, and I guess I can include maybe barbers, I don't know, are the worst salespeople when it comes to selling products. And you may, as an owner, you probably have seen that before, felt that pain. But I know for a fact, working in numerous salons where the retail is just collecting dust on the shelves because the stylists aren't selling anything. Oh, I hate retail. And the owner's trying to give them 10% of something when they sell over $100. So they're like, what incentive is that? So I decided that, I want to go direct to consumer. And I have been focusing so much of my content on the consumer that they know me as like, oh, you want the best hair tips? You want how to do this? Go to the Salon Guy. And I think for your sake and for anybody who watches this, if they're in that area or that they're kind of having a difficulty finding that niche or that target audience, you have to stay with it and be committed to it. So because I shifted purposely, but I've lost a lot of that connection with the professional salon industry. And I've seen a lot of people grow exponentially, like that are in that industry, focusing their target content towards that. For me, I've taken it, like I said, a bit more commercialized. That's what's gotten me on television. That's what's gotten me on red carpet events and interviewing celebrities and this and that. So it's very frustrating for me when I see a video that I put a lot of work in that isn't really a huge hit, but I also know why. And that's the challenge of making content that you want to make versus making content that the audience wants to see. I don't want to keep doing the same darn hair tip videos over and over again. that's what people want to see. It's kind of like, settling in a sense. So, if I were to post a video of how to be the best hairstylist in the world, I'll get like 6 views on it. But you know what I mean? So it's really, really frustrating. And yes, so the views have really fluctuated, but I've grown. My subscriber base keeps growing. I'm over 1 million subscribers. I don't know how my subscriber base keeps growing every single day, and the views are kind of all over the place. But because I have so many videos, having that many videos, it's like a library where YouTube and still pushes my library to people. So it's like that's another thing. It's like recurring all the time,
Well, that's good. That's obviously a good sign of your what's the professional term for it? Like your sales to conversion ratio. So the people who are coming in, you may not be having as many views, but more of them are subscribing. So that goes to show that you're obviously targeting a good audience. Your algorithm is obviously targeting people who want to buy from you. So the fact you're growing subscribers is still promising. But what's frustrated me a little bit is that I always felt I never wanted to compromise what I believe in. I always want to just be a good teacher, a professional teacher, a true teacher, someone who speaks the truth about the industry, doesn't try to sell something that's not realistic, sells real content, for real shop-ready barbers. And I just wanted to keep it down to earth and simple. And I did a training course recently, and it was teaching about how to improve your social media, improve your target audience and things. And they were basically saying that the typical business sales approach is gone, has died. You can't gain an audience with that anymore. There's two things that sells on social media now. There's controversy or comedy. And there's nothing in between. If you try to sell education, it doesn't work as well. If you're trying to promote your business, it doesn't work as well. So you've got to sell yourself as a person, and you've either got to be funny or you've got to be controversial. And I thought, I don't want to go down this road because I could be controversial, and I think I'm funny, but I'm not. My wife says I'm not anyway. But I always wanted just to be an educator. And I thought, you know what, I'll try it out. I'll see where this goes. And I started sort of doing reaction videos. And because believe it or not, the highest grossing YouTuber in the world is I can't remember her name, but this is a young girl, or she's probably a young adult now, who just does reaction videos. And all she does in the videos is just shrugs her shoulders. She just goes, hmm. And at the end of that, she's got millions and millions and millions of views, and she's made the most money. And I thought, all right, well, I'll try that. And let's see if this actually works. And I started doing reaction videos. Now, I'm not hitting the numbers that you're hitting, Stephen, but I'm definitely improving and increasing. So I could do a video now, a 1 minute 30 reel on Instagram, giving the 3 best tips for the most effective skin phase, or 3 tips for new barbers, or 3 tips about how to open your first shop. And it'll hit about 2,500, 3,000 people. Or I'll do a reaction video making fun of maybe someone's method that I think is overdoing it. They're overplaying the technique, just to try and make it look complicated, to try and make it look more effective. And I've gone and maybe made a little bit of a joke about it and made a reaction to that video, and it's hitting 100,000 views. I'm thinking to myself, wow, is this really, why is it come to this now? So how are you adapting in this change of industry?
Well, that's a really good one. And another example would be TikTok, right? I was very anti TikTok when it first came out. I jumped on TikTok. Yeah, I jumped on. I'm like, this is literally a predator's dream come true to see all these 16, 17-year-old girls dancing around and being very, I mean, it's crazy. And that's what they still do to this day to get attention. And I was like, I am not into this. I tried doing a couple of random stupid dancing videos, and I was like, I don't even know what the hell to post on here. So then I started experimenting, and I found my niche on what worked best for me. And then I started going viral, and I started creating content based around TikTokers. I started cutting, hair of big TikTokers, doing recreations of their hair. I grew so fast because of me jumping on that bandwagon. And also, I think I also feel like I contributed to making the, TikToker hairstyle somewhat famous, because that's what I was calling it. And I was really the first, I think, one of the first people to embrace that look on social media and started doing tutorials of them, and then actually cutting hair of TikTokers. And it just really just one after the next, and then I called it the TikToker hairstyle. And every teenager, almost bigger than the Beatles hairstyle, every teenager, every kid in school wanted that haircut. How do you get it? And I have so many tutorials on how to get that stupid flip up hairstyle in the front. And that literally catapulted my business from my
Wow.
product business to, my social media growth to where, on TikTok, my highest viewed video is at 37 million views. It goes from 37 million to 20 something million, 20 something million. I have so many videos in the millions, tens of millions, but 37 million views is my highest viewed TikTok video. And my niche was creating 5 to 7 second hair tutorials. And once you find your niche, the one that gets all of those views, you have to stick with that format. And that's what I did. And that's also what I'm doing now, again, on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts, is creating this short, catchy, right to the point type of video. And because I have such a huge library of content, I'm actually going back and just re-editing a lot of the videos that no one's seen before. Some people just subscribed to me a day ago or a year ago. They don't know what I posted 14, 15 years ago. So I'm going back and I'm just re-editing a lot of those old clips. I mean, I could never film an actual live YouTube video ever again and be good for the next like probably 2-3 years based off of all the content I have, So, and just re-editing all those old videos. So once you find what works, now I'm not a reaction guy. I've tried doing reaction stuff. I don't know why it works. I've looked at your stuff. I know exactly what you're talking about. And some people latch on to the reaction stuff and they do very well. The thing to me about that is when you really break down the quality of the content, all you're doing is piggybacking off of someone else. And I know it's harsh to say that, but it's like when I went back to say, I'm tired of doing the same friggin' hair tip videos that I've been doing for 10 years. I know it's gonna work. If I want the views, I gotta do a stupid how to make straight hair wavy, how to get more volume in your hair, how to grow your hair faster, like the scammy clickbait stuff on YouTube. So I would say experiment with a variety of different things that you're passionate about, but experiment with the time. A minute and 30-second is my goal is like 20 seconds, like the longest.
Okay.
So if I can do a video in 10, 15 seconds, boom, they're going to share it. They're going to keep watching it over and over again. And the more they're on their phone, rewatching, the algorithm picks that up. And the next thing you know, you're going to be getting, oh my gosh, I'm up to like 10, 15,000 views. Like, what the heck? That's the secret to that stuff that I've learned.
But you still think there's some life left in just tips and tricks and basic sort of tutorials and methods and how-tos. You think there's still life in that?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And my suggestion to you, and you can thank me when it happens, try a 10-second video on doing a tight fade on someone. Just literally film it up close and just get you just fading. And you can edit it that way, doing different levels of fading within 10 seconds, or doing something that is really something that catches someone's eye and that they want to know about. Maybe getting volume in the front, like a trick, getting a brush and lifting it up. And I'm telling you, your views will increase tenfold. Once you find that niche of what's going to work for you. Now, this is more short form. Once you find what works for you, I can promise you, and like I said, you can thank me later, your views are going to increase like tremendously, and try that multiple times, right? If you don't have, maybe one of them is not but I can almost assure you the first one is going to be a banger.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. And I'll give it a go. I think maybe that was the mistake I was making. I was trying to do how-to videos and trying to give people as much information as I could with the amount of time that I had on a reel. And I just didn't quite find it reaching the audience I wanted. And then I do a 15-second reaction video and it's reaching tens of thousands. And I'm just like, I don't really want to be doing them. Yeah, it's funny. And yeah, it kind of gets my message across because I think my whole business objective is to try and make people realize you don't have to overcomplicate barbering. You don't have to make it look cleverer than what it is. There's ways of doing techniques that make your life easier, that are effective, that make your cuts faster, which means your customer's not in the chair longer, which means you're getting more profit from your services. But the industry today seems to be more about overcomplicating it, over-structuring it, over hairdressing it, if you want to call it that. I think someone's come across to barbering from hairdressing and they want to do 10,000 sections on someone's head to try and do a crop. And I'm like, you don't need to do 10,000 sections. You can just do a bit of scissor or a comb and use a trimmer. I'm trying to get those messages across with a little bit of humor with the reaction videos, but I don't really want to be that guy. I want to be a guy that's known for my coaching and for my knowledge and my experience.
Well, Matthew, just on that topic, imagine, and this would be my advice, and I used to do consulting for companies, and people would pay big money for me to do consulting for them on social media strategies, not even in the hair industry, in a variety of different, mostly tech industries and things like that. But my suggestion would be, if you're doing a reaction video, react to what they're doing improperly, and then you show yourself doing it properly. That would put the icing on the cake and bridge that gap. I would break free from doing the reaction videos if you're not going to do that format as soon as possible, because what you're doing is you're just building up an audience of, I'd rather you have 100 people in the industry watch your video than 10,000 people that are just random. Like, now I'm assuming you are getting a mix of professionals and other barbers watching, but you're not really bringing any value to them. You're just being entertaining, and there's no value. If you want to grow a real audience and have people purchase your courses and keep growing what you're doing, you need to sprinkle in you a bit more as an expert. That's what I do. People come to me as being somewhat of a hair expert, and I don't even call myself an expert, but people are like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm just so, I don't have any egos. I'm just like, yeah, it is what it is, whatever. Like, I don't even, you know what I mean? Like, so I think, again, if you tried that method, it would work, or just completely cut out the reaction videos and start doing more of what I mentioned, of you doing a technique in 10 seconds to bring value. Then you'll start to build the audience you want,
Oh, I really appreciate that. And you are right. You are right. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I think that's what I needed. I think I was looking at a build a following fast method, and it was helping. I was gaining more followers, and a lot of them were barbers, because the concern I've got is for some reason in the industry today, I'm starting to find that barbers are becoming quite toxic, and they like the negativity. They like to see people being controversial. There's not many barbers that want to support other barbers. Most of my clients on the Barber Coach TV are either older barbers who want to sort of move with the times, hairdressers wanting to learn men's hair, or very, very new beginners. Everyone in between, I'm the competition, or I'm a threat to them. They don't want to support me. But they like to see people being controversial about other people. So they'll follow me and they'll like my videos and they'll take part in the comments. But you're right, they're not going to subscribe to my online training platform, and I'm not really adding value to their lives. So I do appreciate your honesty there, mate. That absolutely means a lot to me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I tell, like, the thing about me is I base anything that I say off of real world experience. The amount of gurus and experts that are out there who have never really been tested or really built up something significant is phenomenal. Now, my biggest weakness, if I'm going to actually somewhat leave myself vulnerable, is I focus too much on competition, and I take it way too personally. And my friend, like, for example, my hair product line, like, I'm competing with people who are basically, 19-year-old rich kids that have nice hair, and they're making hair products in their garage, and getting one of their, like, hipster buddies to create a cool label, and they're buying these bottles and, like, mixing stuff in an unsanitary environment and saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. And they've never spent 10 seconds as a professional hairstylist, as a professional barber. That's my competition. And when I see these people on social media platforms, it just eats away at me. And I'm like, and some people call them out, like, oh, you're a scammer and this and that. And I think that's funny. Like, people will call that out, but then you get the people who worship them and fall into their trap and buy stuff. Then on the flip side, you do get people who are in the industry. And again, sometimes this stuff boggles me, and I'm so opposite of this. I'm actually very anti-social when it comes to this type of stuff. Is, they're promoting their product lines by, showing off the Ferraris, showing off the mansions, half naked girls, half naked this. And I'm like, and I was telling my friend once, and I'm like, dude, like, how is this person in this, big chain retail store? And I don't understand that. And he goes, do you realize that chain store, who is their target audience? I'm like, oh my God, people want like a $2 like deal on something. Like a bunch of people just want deals. They're not spending money. He goes, that's who that is attracting. I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense. He's like, you're not that, you're premium. And I'm like, yeah, but this guy is sitting here, driving 3 Ferraris and, how mansions. I'm like, how is this guy even doing this? So I start to, maybe you want to share your advice on that, but I tend to take competition way too personally, when in reality, I've had people say to me, dude, you were one of the first to do any of this stuff. Like, you created your own hair product line. They're following you. They're copying off of you. They're trying to create this. And in reality, if you want to compare resumes, let's compare resumes. Here's my 9 pages of accomplishments I've done in my industry, and here's yours. Nothing. So, I have to start caring less about what's out there and keep focusing on myself. And I'll tell you, man, lastly, because I want to hear your opinion on this. For me, it's a grind, man. It is not easy to be I mean, in my position where I've how far I've come. I spent the first maybe 4 or 5 years of putting sweat equity into my brand, not even knowing how to make money. Like, I made no money as the salon guy for a long time, until I started looking at myself as a business and realizing that I had value to bring to the table. The next thing you know, I was, being hired by, L'Oreal and Paul Mitchell and all these big companies to create content for them and be the personality at their events and create, event coverage and do the social media. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh my God, like, people want me for my expertise based off of what they seen me do. So that's where I feel like the credibility, even though it's not as, to me, it's really, gone, it's thinned out quite a bit, in my opinion, but I think it's still there. And credibility does matter when it comes down to really closing a deal, but what's your perspective on what I shared with competition and stuff like that?
Um, from a barbering perspective, my concern is that the overall quality and the focus on giving the customer what's best has gone. There is no customer focus anymore. Now, I know you're targeting, I suppose, a commercial audience as well as a salon audience, but I'm trying to focus my attention on barbers and helping people who want to learn cutting. And my focus is on trying to sell a product and trying to make barbers realize that it's the customer in their chair is what really matters, and bringing customers to the door and giving them a quality service. And I feel like the industry's been cheapened. I feel like there's no real attention to customer service in it anymore. I think people are more focused on offering services that target likes and followers on Instagram than actually realizing that they're in an industry that's to serve, that is here to service people. So the quality's gone, the professionalism has gone, the ethics has gone, and I'm really concerned by it. So I feel like I'm trying to sell a service, an education, a knowledge, and an experience that can actually help them build a sustainable business, that they can grow, that they can offer the best quality service. They can be the busiest barber in their area, and they don't want it because their focus is on building followers on Instagram. So they're compromising learning good, structured techniques and methods, and they'd rather do something that's way overcomplicated that makes a haircut look unusual and unique, something that no one's ever going to ask for in a barbershop. But because it gets a few likes on Instagram, they feel like they've been successful. So I'm trying to sell the message that you need to realize, guys, you young and up and coming hipster, gangster barbers, whatever you want to call yourself, you're young now. You're not going to be young forever. Your clientele is young now. They may be happy if you do silly haircuts on them for Instagram likes because they think that's cool, because they think that's important. But in 10 years' time, when they're losing their hair and they've got a wife who says, stop having those stupid haircuts, and you're getting older and you're not relevant anymore, and the young guys don't look up to you as a fashionable barber anymore, are you still going to be able to maintain the standards of your business? And are you still going to be able to target a clientele when you've not been able to move with structured professional techniques and methods because your whole focus is on building an Instagram page? And I'm starting to find that no one really, I'm not saying no one, I do have a clientele, and the Barber Coach TV does have um, subscribers on there. And I do have people who message me thanking me for what I'm doing and thanking me for how I teach. But the majority of the industry today, especially the sort of ages between 18 and 30, are focusing so much on Instagram that they've lost the ethics of giving good customer professional service. And I'm finding it difficult to sell what I'm selling because my objective is selling good customer service. And that seems to have been lost in the industry.
Yeah. Marcia
We've
here
just
is
had a
watching.
question come in. Sorry, Stephen, to interrupt you there. We just had a comment come in there from Marcia. So let's have a look at that in the chat.
Right.
So Marcia is saying there's no person-centered customer care anymore. Everyone just wants to make money and hype. So now for me, I feel that I can teach barbers how to make money. I can teach them how to build their businesses, how to bring staff on board. So I've got 3 shops. I've had 5. I've reduced 2 shops down to 1 super shop. So I've gone from having maybe 5 shops with 3 barbers in there to having 1 shop with 8 barbers and 2 shops with 3 barbers, for instance. And all my barbers earn really, really good money. I make good chair rental off them. I obviously make money from teaching online. I make money from sponsorship deals. So I know how to teach people how to make money, but they think the main way of making money now is on Instagram and on YouTube and not on actually building sustainable businesses. So how do you feel about that? Because obviously you have to transition from teaching to the professional industry to maybe targeting a commercial audience. But what's your feelings about the change in the industry today?
Yeah, it's really, really good topics that you've brought up. I think we also have to kind of understand that, I'm 49 right now, and we have to go with the times of kind of what is changing, right? And like, it's kind of like we may look at like this 75, 60, 75-year-old who's in a hair salon who's like, I don't even know how to operate my phone. And we're like, oh my God. Like, so it's kind of like we have to adjust to what's happening, but embrace it in our own way and capitalize on it in our own way. Like I mentioned with TikTok, I was like, I'm not a 16-year-old girl in a miniskirt dancing. How can I capitalize on this? And then once I embraced it in my own lane, I literally crushed it. And it has like quadrupled my exposure and business and my approach to things. So I think sometimes it goes back to me looking at these TikTokers creating hair products. Like it's so aggravating and frustrating. But when you really think about it, I then have to ground myself and go back to my roots of how I started. And like Marcia, what she's saying, and you're talking about, where do I come from? The amount of work and energy and passion and drive and commitment and dedication and I've put into myself to get to this point is I'll go toe to toe with anybody, and say, all right, let's talk. What have you done? If you have done all those things, and I'm right there with you. If you've never done even a fraction of that and you're complaining, or you're trying to create content, or you're trying to capitalize on something just because it's new and trendy and you're doing it for likes or the wrong reasons, it's short-lived. And so what you could do is also learn from that. Like I mentioned, do a 10-second video of you doing something. Yes, it's for Instagram, it's for likes, it's for views, but that's what's going to get you more customers. That's what's going to get you more clients. And you're doing it in the right way, that's a bit more educational. If you're doing it in a very ghetto or urban or different type of way, that's what you're going to attract. So when you do those types of new videos and that new type of content and presentation, you're going to see the difference pretty quickly. And I'm just telling you this from my experience. You're going to notice pretty quickly. So, it goes back to just, you look at them and you say, oh, here's another one doing this for views and likes and this and that. It really comes down to, and I've noticed this, especially with the barbers, is there is a lot of talented people out there. And I look at some of these fades that some of these people are doing, and there's some heavy, heavy hitters on social media doing really quality work. Yes, it's entertaining. Yes, it's very chopped up and quick, That's what's engaging. That's what's getting them all the views, but then that's getting them huge sponsor deals. So you have to embrace it in a way, because I've stopped hating on it to an extent. Again, I take it more personally, and I need to stop doing that because I compare too much. So we need to start embracing it more and applying our own methods to that trend. And then it's going to change your whole perspective where you won't even focus on those other people doing things for what they're doing for entertainment purposes. You're going to be in your own lane, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my main concern is that I think a lot of my competitors, like other barber coaches and educators, who are doing better than me, they've got bigger followers than me, they've got bigger audiences than me, and I know these guys. I've competed with them, I've worked with them in the industry, and I've done better than them. But they've, in a way, the concern I've got, Stephen, is that I'm worried that barbers are exploiting vulnerable barbers to take advantage of them. So what I'm trying to say is that there's barber educators who they understand that they can do a creative haircut in a competition, and that catches people's eye and they win a competition. They then sell how to do that haircut. And then these young barbers coming through, seeing the followers on this person and thinking, oh, so that's what I need to be doing to be busier, to make more money. So they are then buying into these methods for haircuts that are not realistic, that a customer's never going to ask for. They're never going to use in a barbershop, which means they're never going to profit from it. And then I'm worried that it's damaging the industry, because these up and coming barbers and see this and think that's what you need to do to be a good barber. Whereas I feel like I'm trying to sell the realistic things of what you need to do to be a good barber. So I suppose what I'm asking you is, can I still be real with my education? Do I have to compromise with my ethics and sell cut-in tutorials which you're never going to use in a barbershop, because those are the ones that tend to be selling? Or do you still think I can target an audience and make them realize that you can still keep it simple and keep it realistic? But I'm concerned that what's selling in the industry is the unrealistic stuff that no one's ever going to ask for, but the young barbers don't realize that, because all they care about is the hipster look. And can you see what I'm saying? They've got a misconception of what's real and what's not.
Right. Yeah, I see that all the time. I think the key to all of it is always stay true to your ethics. That's the one thing I will say, is never change your core, never change your ethics, never change your professionalism, because that's who you are as a person. Then you become a sellout. You sell your soul. You don't want to do that. So what you need to do is, again, kind of focus on being authentic. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and like I said, when I would go to these hair shows, I'd see these guys doing all sorts of crazy avant-garde work, stuff that's not realistic. And we would critique them. Even when I was working for Paul Mitchell, doing all these crazy haircuts that Robert Crumans would do, or all these people that work for Paul Mitchell, that we'd have to we'd get these training DVDs, and we'd have to duplicate these haircuts, and we have to present them in front of our peers and management and all that before we could even go out and teach it. And if we didn't get approved, we couldn't go out and teach. So we would say to ourselves, who in their bloody mind is going to wear this damn haircut? This thing is so ridiculous and so unrealistic. Who on earth would even wear this? And we were critiquing that type of stuff years ago, before even social media really existed. And Marsha left another comment. Hold on a second, Marsha. But I think what's happening is, what I'm doing with hair products, I'm posting a lot of comments, and I'm trying to make my voice known. Who do you want to purchase from? A product from a company who's been in the industry for over 30 years, or someone who's made products in their garage and who's never spent a day in the industry? If you're a barber, what type of haircut do you want? Do you want an avant-garde haircut? Or are you the person who really wants to learn how you can make money as a barber? Well, these are the haircuts that have built my success. This is what people are asking for. 1 out of 30 people are asking for a mullet, that comes down to here, and combing it with, one of these combs like this. making all these S waves, and 1 out of 20 people are getting that. So if you want to be a successful barber and grow yourself as a real world barber and be very realistic and make real money and growth, then this is what you should be doing. So I think, once again, if you start voicing your opinions on this in a ethical, authentic way, that's going to once again help. So Marsha here is saying that people put in the work will be remembered for that. Exactly. Remember for the skill, drive, and passion. Some barbers and hairdressers will be remembered for their social media platform, which unfortunately is the way society is going now. And this is teaching young barbers to work towards hype and not so much the quality of their skills. That's true, but keep in mind, Marsha, as well as anyone who's going to be watching, and there are a lot of talented people. I'm seeing a lot of these amazing fades. I'm like, wow, some of their work, no matter how freakish it is, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff out there. And I'm sure as a barber, you can appreciate that. There is some talented stuff. The freakish stuff to get for views, that's what they're doing. That's what's creating the attention. You have to jump on that bandwagon,
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Stephen. And I was going to, because I can do creative stuff. When I've won my competitions, I won them by doing alternative hairstyles, by doing
right?
reverse fades, center partings with a reverse fade, with a bit of color coming through, maybe a flick in the center parting and all. Really crazy stuff. You'll have to have a look through my Instagram. I'll send you some things if you want, like really crazy stuff. But I did that to stand out in competitions because I knew the judges who were watching the competitions, I knew their background and I knew they couldn't do those things. So when they seen me doing those things, they were blown away by it. But then what happened is, which was the reason why I started getting a bit concerned and getting a bit frustrated, is that the other educators then started selling these hairstyles and courses on how to do these hairstyles to younger barbers to make them think that that's what you need to do to be a good barber. And I was going to say, well, no, because none of the hairstyles I've ever done on stage in a competition I've ever done in a barbershop. The haircuts that I make money off in a barbershop is a skin fade with a nice blend with a little bit of a flick at the front, and it takes me 20 minutes. So I'm going to say to people, if you want to make money, instead of spending 2 hours of doing a haircut, I'll teach you how to do an hour in 20 minutes. You can do 3 an hour and triple your profit. That's what I'm trying to do. But these other barbers then go, no, slow it down. Take 2 hours, do 10,000 sections, do the upside down fade, leave a little long bit there, flick that little bit up there and put a bit of color in it, do all of this stuff, spend 2 hours of doing a haircut and charge £100 for it. But the truth is, 99% of barbers are not going to be able to do that. So that was my argument with the industry. But if you think I can still be true to myself, and I'm all for showing my creativity and showing my artistic flair and showing my alternative cuts and techniques, but I want barbers to realize that is for competitions only. And if you want to be successful in your barbershop and have a full client base and have a full appointment clientele, then that's not what's going to make you money. You need to be able to do efficient, good quality haircuts. And more importantly, you need to be a good person. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to understand your customer. You need to have good customer service. And I'm worried that these youngsters aren't learning any of this. They're just learning how to do crazy haircuts. And they're not even able to communicate with their customers, you know?
Right. Well, the thing is, you touched on a few points. Are what you just shared with me, are you putting that out on social media? I haven't seen much of your rebuttal to what you're seeing. If I saw you post an Instagram reel literally in 30 seconds of what you're talking about right now, there you have me. You literally made me, you open up my eyes. So you may get a young barber, and you could even, this is the advantage, is you can then sell your creativity, saying, you know what? I've been in competitions. I've competed with some of the best in the world. I've won awards. I can teach you creative stuff. But that's not what's realistic. That's not paying my bills. If you want to pay your bills as a barber, then let me teach you what really is going to help you be successful and what you need to learn as a barber. That's a reel right there. Instead of focusing so much on the reaction stuff, if you literally started putting that message out there and disrupting in a very ethical, professional way, you're going to start to attract. Whatever you put out is what you attract. It's as simple as that. I know this, and I would never tell you any rubbish. I'd never tell you any nonsense. I wouldn't even say it. And you hear how passionate and how easy it is for me to say it, because I know it. I've experienced it firsthand. I know what works. And looking from the outside in, I think that, you know, it's easy for me to say it and share this stuff with you, you know?
No, I really admire that, and I admire you. I respect you. I look up to you, and I followed you for years. So for you to be advising me alone is enough, and I really, really appreciate it. And
Thank
what I
you.
want, and I want to be selling that information. I want to be doing just like what you've said there. I think I've done it at a smaller scale before, and I've reached a smaller audience, but I'm finding that it's not giving me the mass numbers. It's not giving me the virality. I'm doing like walk talk videos on YouTube, and I'm talking about maybe stuff like this. I'm touching in what we're speaking about now. I'm touching on it in these YouTube videos, and I'm doing 20, 30-minute videos going into depth on it, but it doesn't seem to be getting the numbers.
No,
And then I'll do.
that it's not. It's because people check out after 30 seconds. They check after a minute. Try the try focusing on your shorts, which I saw you have been doing. Focus on your shorts in the exact method that I shared with you. Give it a couple of videos, and I guarantee you'll be surprised on how much better it does. And the first one, I almost feel like the first video, well, you'll be like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, you'll be blown away with the views. If not, you just keep the same strategy, because I know what's working, and I know what's worked for me, and why my videos are blowing up so much, and why they do so well or have done so well, because I kind of know what works as far as a strategic perspective. You have to just apply it to your stuff. You start posting 10-second, 10 how to fade hair in 10 seconds. I'll be like, oh my God, start with this, start with that, or stuff that you really think is going to, or hair tips, or just tips to barbers that you really think that could be impactful, that they can learn from. It's like 10-second tutorials. And then on the flip side, make content, reels, or even short, 5-minute videos on, do you want to learn how to be a good barber? And like we just talked about, call out the freakish stuff if that's not realistic. Once you start changing your content approach, then that's going to be kind of game changing for you. And that's me telling myself. I tell myself these strategies and these things every day. And I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. Every day, even more recently, I'm rediscovering, I'm trying new strategies. I look at a lot of these people. I was looking at some people yesterday that I'm like, wait, this guy who I've seen on YouTube like many years ago, who all I thought the guy was like a traveling vlogger. I'm like, wait, this guy owns a barber shop. He's a barber. Wait, he has this. And then I start to see his team, and I'm like, wait a minute, this person's on that team. What the? And that's what starts to eat me away. I'm like, how the heck? And then I start to compare, and I start to say, well, I'm not that. I'm not that. But then I say to myself, well, you know what? Good for them. That's their own audience. They want to be around a bunch of hipsters, and that's their look, and that's their vibe, and that's cool. I'm my own vibe. I'm my own thing, and I've been it in the long haul. And once again, when it comes down to comparing, you put resumes side by side. And that's my problem, is I never pat myself on the back or give myself any credit. I'm the last person to give myself any credit. And I have to have friends and people remind me of, like, dude, like, do you even understand? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, you're comparing yourself to somebody, and they wouldn't even last 5 minutes trying to go through the grind and hustle that you've done over the years. I'm like, you know what? I guess I never thought about that. That's because I never really give myself much credit, because I'm always so busy trying to focus on staying afloat and surviving. But yeah, Matthew, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Here in the States, what's happening, especially more in the salon industry, is stylists are jumping ship. They're leaving the owner. They're doing the walkouts and all that. But what they're doing is they're opening up salon suites. I don't know if they have those over there, but basically it's what these companies are doing is buying out a building and opening up individual salon suites, where it's like, a 10 by 10, 10 by 15-foot space that'll fit one stylist in. They're getting one sink, and they're putting it under like a shared workspace. And each individual stylist, they're paying rent, basically, whether it's maybe £1,000 a month or 1,000, $1,500 US, $2,000 US, whatever it is, and they're running their own business. A lot of people are becoming so independent nowadays, and they're doing very well with it. They're detaching themselves from the salon environment, from the barbershop environment. They're on the flip side, they're thinking that leaving and starting their own thing is going to be better for them, when actually it could be a lot worse. But what's your take on? Is this something that's even happening by you? And what's your take on having, the difference between going solo on your own versus working for a shop?
Well, firstly, that sounds like my worst nightmare, if I'm honest. I
Right.
love the salon environment. I love the team. I love the banter. I love how the customers bounce off each barber, how the barbers pull together, help each other, support each other. I love that environment. I hate working alone. So I've set up a little pop-up shop in my. I've moved from one town to another town, and in that town I've got to know a few people. So I've sort of popped up a little shop there 2 days a week just to get a feel of the clientele there, just try and see if there's potential for a barbershop there. And I'll be honest, I love the customers, but I hate being on my own. I hate working alone in a shop. I love going to the big shops where there's big teams in there. Now, are these new business things, whatever you want to call them, are each barber in each booth separate brands, or are they all working under
Yes.
one brand?
Separate. It's their own private entity. They can design it, paint, they can decor it, decorate it however they want. It's your own booth, your own space.
Oh, it's like they're moving next door to the competition, isn't it? I don't understand. I
Well,
just don't think it's very. I think it's soul destroying. I don't think it's very uplifting. I understand maybe they're saving a couple of quid potentially than what they'd be paying in the salon environment. So for me, what I do is so all my barbers rent chairs off me, but I don't overcharge them on price. I'm very good at finding cheap barbershop locations. I don't go for the big in-town main street barbershops. I go for the out-of-town shops with free parking, easy access, convenience. I'm all about convenience. And I'll find maybe a big industrial unit rather than a big shop front business so that my costs are a lot lower, but my space is bigger. I'll push the promotion through social media so it draws an audience that way rather than trying to draw passing trade. And so that allows me then to rent my chairs out to my barbers for less. So it's much cheaper for them to actually rent a chair in my shop than what it is for them to go alone. Now I know of a lot of other barbers who've got big main street barbershops who are losing once a barber's built a clientele and those clients are loyal to that barber. And then when barbers realize that it's not that expensive to set up a barbershop, if they've got a little bit about them, then it's quite easy for them even in the UK to leave and open up their own shop. But what I will say is I've had about 4 or 5 barbers leave me to open up their own shops. And nearly every single one of them have come back to me and said, I wish I hadn't done it. It's not been worth it. They miss the atmosphere, they miss the banter, and they miss the mentorship. So in a way, in my shops, I lead from the front and I work just as hard as all my other staff. And I make sure I'm better than all my other staff. I make sure I'm relevant. I make sure that my knowledge is still expanding. So they keep having to look up to me. They don't ever look at me and think, oh, I'm better than him. And the one or two that have left and they've always gone, oh, do you know what? I wish I didn't leave. Or I've not made as much money since I've left. So I'd like to think that it's important to build a family. So I tell my barbers, you don't work for me, you work with me. It may be my name on the business, but we are all relevant in this business. At the end of the day, all that really matters here is our customers. And I want you guys to make as much profit from this as I do. So that's my business angle on it. But I think it seems quite sad to me that barbers now are wanting to be so, how can I say it? I'm trying to work
Independent.
out what their perspective is. I'm trying to work out why they're wanting to leave. Is it just to save a bit of money on rent? Do they think it's going to be better for their customers? I don't understand, because if they take their clientele to a business where there's going to be lots of other booths there, what happens when you want to have a holiday and your clients need a booking? Where are they going to go then? Are they going to go to another business? I don't mind my clients going to one of my barbers within my brand, but I'd hate to think that my clients are then going next door to my competitor. That sounds horrific for me as a business owner, you know?
You know what it is? It's a 3-letter word: why they do it. You know what that word is? A three-letter word.
Go on.
Ego.
Uh, that is
It's
always the
it's
problem, isn't it?
it's the barber who wants to have the cape that says Supreme on it. It's the
Yeah.
barber who wants to have Supreme on their clippers or a Gucci sticker on their cape or a Gucci sticker on their trimmers. Basically, right now, because of the stuff we talked about before, people look at that um
Success.
as success justification, and they look at that as a way to feel like they're successful, not understanding anything about business and not really
That's true.
knowing. So it's verification to them. They feel so much better about it because they're doing something for themselves. So
And
they think, huh?
they can put that on their Instagram, show all their friends in school who thought that they weren't going to be anything, and go, "Look at me, I've got my own shop." Well, really, what
Right.
they've done is they've learned from someone who has their own shop, taken their knowledge and expertise, and just popped up in a little booth down the road, and then they're telling people, "Look at me, I'm a businessman." The perspective in the industry is wrong. I think it's been
Well,
misled.
it's also because here's a little storytelling, and I hope people who watch this really can understand, even if they haven't experienced what I've experienced. And I don't know what you call them over there, but I know in like Scotland they call them like a tradesman, basically as an assistant, right? They called us assistants, and an assistant or an apprentice. That's what I was, apprentice.
Apprentice, yeah.
Bas- yeah, basically, uh, my apprenticeship was a living hell. I found when I first got the opportunity to get the chance to work for L'Oreal, I saw a guy on stage in a suit working on beautiful models. I said, I want to be a guy in a suit around beautiful women. That was my
Mhm.
goal in front of all these hundreds and hundreds of people. I was like this, worshiping this guy. Just look, who is this guy? And I kept seeing him at hair shows and stuff until one day I said, hey man, I want to do what you do, man. And he was like, well, yeah, like, what do you mean? I'm like, I want to be a guy on stage in a suit with beautiful women. How do you do it? And he's like, well, what's your experience? I'm like, well, I'm in like cosmetology school. I was still in school then. And he was like, well, you need some experience, but you know what? I think I do recognize seeing you at various shows, and so you know what? I'll give you my card, keep in touch, and maybe I can give you some guidance. So I have always been the type of person that if someone who is successful gives me the opportunity to learn from them and says, you be here at this time and this date, or you call me, I will do it. And I've learned that the hard way, but never pass up an opportunity from someone you can learn from. And I did that. The guy mentored me. And 3 years later, after paying my dues, he goes, okay, now you're ready. And that was me. That meant it was my opportunity to audition to work for L'Oreal. It wasn't even guaranteed. I had to audition. The process of 3 years of being an assistant, an apprentice. This is this is day one of him mentoring me. His name is Timothy. I said, Timothy, I need to find a salon to work in. What do I do? I'm not happy at the place I'm at. Help me, guide me. He goes, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you. So I live in a state called New Jersey, and New York is right, really the next state over, right? New York City is right there. I want you to go into New York or wherever and interview 75 salons. And I want you to rate 75 salons from 1 to 5. And then break those down out of those 75 to the top 5, then the top 2, and then make your choice. I said, are you out of your mind? How do I do that? And he goes, I'm going to give you a month to do it. I said, 75 salons? Where do I go? He goes, do you realize that in the town we're in right now, there's 26 salons? I said, but why would I go? What if they're all crappy salons? He goes, I don't care who you go to. 75 salons, break down the list. I want them all written. You rate them all and come back to me when you're done. So I took it upon myself to literally interview 75 salons. I rated them from 1 to 5. I narrowed it down to the 2. And I went from all over New Jersey, all over New York City, some of the biggest names in Manhattan and New York, top tier salons. And some of them got like a 2-star, 3 stars. I narrowed it down to the one, and I chose that one. And he goes, "Why did you choose that salon?" He knew it. And I said, "Well, honestly, out of everyone that I've been to, one, it's a bit closer to me than like having to go into the city and making no money into New York." But I said, and it's a bit closer to me. I can make the drive there, but they offered me such a program and a way to growing that I was like, it was so amazing. They offered benefits, they offered this, a training program of this, of that, and a tier level. I was like, this sounds incredible. He goes, "That's your salon." After about a year of working there, maybe a little bit less, I said, "Timothy, I can't take it anymore. It's brutal. It's awful. I cannot take this anymore. I need to get out of here." He goes, "Okay, I'm going to send you to another place. I think you're ready for another place." He goes, um, "I have the place for you." He sent me to this place within 5 months. "Timothy, this is worse than the last one you sent me to." "Okay, all right. I think you're ready for the big one now. I'm going to send you to this place." Literally a hellhole. So for 3 years, this guy, my mentor, who I ended up at the last bit, I said, I don't ever want to talk to you again. What you've put me through. And then that's when he said to me, he goes, "Now you're ready." I said, "Ready to what? Hang myself?" He goes, "Nope. Now you know what not to do." And I sat there and I didn't really understand what he said or what he meant by that. I said, "What not to do? What the hell does that mean?" He goes, "Everything you've witnessed, all of the nonsense you've seen, all of the horrible salons you've been in, now you know what not to do in your career, in your path." And to this day, it's probably the best advice and the best experience I've ever had. Not looking back, I couldn't take it. It was brutal. That's the biggest difference. Nowadays, people graduate school, they go on Instagram, they post up a couple of nice haircuts, and they think they're going to be famous overnight. They have no idea what it's like to pay their dues. Nobody puts them through the torture that I went through anymore. I mean, some of these places were brutal. And the last thing tying this, and Marsha just said something also from a hairdressing perspective, wages are not enough when working in salons. So they set up on their own. Exactly. That's why they leave. It's hard to make a living. Working on your own, in her opinion, is daunting. Like you said, Matthew, there's no banter or support. Teamwork makes the dream work. Stephen, yes, I agree. Ego. People are drawn to being a business owner, etc. Yeah, it's all about ego. So and thank you for the engagement, Marsha. That's really nice. And I think what's happening is you need to really, I guess, train people in a sense that you care about them and you're going to lead them to a path of growth. I'm going to segue into your response to something, what I'm going to bring up right now. What I see happen in the salon industry, I don't really know much about the barbering industry as much, but you get these what I call them the empty owner, the empty promise owner. The owner who will say, "Oh yeah, I'll build you up." I'll start you off as an assistant. Typically our assistant process or apprenticeship process is, a year, 2 years, you wash hair at the sink, you fold towels, you do laundry, you sweep the hair. You're basically a grunt. And while you're going through that process, you do like your weekly trainings on a haircut, on a this or that. And then after like a year or 6 months, depending how long the program is, you're then ready to move onto the floor at a cheaper rate, service rate, to start seeing clients, real world experience. That's pretty much a proper apprenticeship, is when you guide someone through the books to where they're a full on stylist, a full on barber, and now they're cooking, now they're doing their thing. I have heard and worked with and experienced so many owners who promise people the world, but in reality, they're short on assistants. They have nobody to wash hair. They have nobody to sweep floor. and they end up hiring the cousin of the owner of themselves or the nephew or the daughter's boyfriend just to put bodies in there. Or the people who do end up working at that place, they promise them everything. 2 years go by and they're still washing hair, doing laundry, being a grunt, and not growing in their career, and they're trapped. They don't know how to leave it. They end up getting wrapped up with all the other stylists that are very, they settle, they don't care. They have the husband who makes all the money. They just work there a couple days. They want to end up having kids. They don't really give a crap. What's your, and you know what I'm saying, right? Have you experienced this? Does this exist in the barber industry? The empty promise owner?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens too much. And then what I find then is that so with in the UK, what you'll find is that all apprentices will have like a college or a governing body that will support them. So they will then look to place them in barbershops and things. And what normally happens is these barbers go into different barbershops, and after 12 months to 24 months, they've not done any haircuts. They've just been used as a tea maker and a floor brusher. And then the college is coming to me saying, oh, I know you're inundated with staff. I know you're fully booked with staff. I know you've got loads of trainees already, but this person's been let down. Can you take them on again? And then I'm finding myself taking more trainees on because I care about helping people. And then my barbers who are qualified then again are frustrated because we've got too many trainees in the shop that I'm trying to spread my time between. So I can only speak about my local area. I mean, the UK is very different from one town to the next. It's very different. The accents are different. The attitudes are different. The costs are different. Everything is so different from 10 miles apart, But all I can speak for is the towns that I work within and the cities that I work within. And there's a lot of barbershops who are using apprentices and not teaching apprentices. But I'm finding this, and it's going back to the same thing. I'm finding that a lot of barbers are individually jealous of other people. They don't want to see other people do well. There seems to be this bad, toxic energy where a barber doesn't want to help another barber. They look at every single person, even colleagues, as competition, and it becomes really hostile. And no one wants to help each other. Whereas I'm the opposite. And the barbers, like you said, have left me. They've left because of ego, and so they can have their name on the shop. And they've realized they've not actually made any extra money, and they didn't realize how hard it is to run a business. But I think we're not having a lot of good barbers coming through, and there's not a lot of barbers to be employed. Most people are self-employed in the industry now. There's not much employment going on because it's hard to employ someone who's not been trained correctly, who's not got the right qualification and hasn't got the right attitude, because educators are leaving people down, and that's why I'm trying to hit that gap in the market.
Yeah. I think, you got to really just stay true to yourself and true to your core values. Never change your ethic, never change your mindset, because that, like when I get feet, there's the amount of comments I get on my YouTube. Oh, you're bald. You're bald. I'm like, dude, you're like 14 from India. Like, you're not my ID, like, the stupid comments that I get. And then I get the ones that really are impactful. Like, you're the real deal. And, there's so many people on YouTube, and you're, one of the few ones who actually are authentic and share good value. And those are the comments that mean a lot to me. That gives me hope. So when you get the type of feedback from the right people, you almost just block out everything else, And that's why I think, as you as an owner in a shop, I think people are leaving here in the States. Simply they're leaving because of the bad ownership. Now, some of them think it's better on the other side, but they don't realize, when all the expenses hit them, and yes, all the challenges hit them, they're like, whoa, I was better off, staying with Matthew and not leaving him. But if you do it, do you realize, and I think to myself sometimes, if I had the Salon Guy chain of salons, it would be massive, because the amount of people that, when I was seeing clients, the amount of people and new clients that I would get purely from my YouTube videos, and I never even promoted that I was even looking for clients from YouTube. I wasn't. They were just email me and, where do you work? And I had somebody come from Italy. I've had people come from Canada. I've had people offer me to fly me to France, all over the world, England, and offer a haircut with me. And literally, it's mind-boggling to this day the amount of clients or people that still want me to cut their hair. They beg me to cut their hair because they watch my videos on YouTube. I almost, bit the bullet and said, you know what? If I create a chain of salons, it would be like nothing else. Um, because I would literally make each person their own content creator under my Salon Guy umbrella, under my YouTube channel. I would literally have a line out the door for not only myself, but for the other people who'd be working for me. And I would have an approach like if it was like a corporation in a sense, of a high tiered structure of roles and responsibilities, like a marketing director, a finance guy, a this, a that, that no one really is implementing in their salon or their barber shop or whatever it is. I go into barbershops and salons still and, film with people sometimes or whatever it is. And I observe and I see what's happening and the amount of just the same old barbershop. It's like 8 out of 10 are like traditional. The ones like maybe your culture and other ones out there that are changing the game, they're few and far between, you know?
Mhm.
So I think for me, that's why I focus so much on direct to consumer. Hairstylists weren't coming to me to get a haircut. Consumers were. I'd have a lot. I mean, literally, it was mind boggling. And still to this day, I probably get 12 to 15 requests for haircuts, and I'm not even doing hair anymore, really. you know? Um,
That's
so
fascinating. So I didn't realize that we were going to go down this road. I wasn't expecting to turn this into like a consultancy meeting or getting advice from you. I was just going to ask you a few questions about your YouTube experience and what you're up to these days. But it's turned into like a mentoring interview, and you've been able
well
to
that
help me and guide me, which I really appreciate.
well, I mean, that's why I want to bring value to you. I want people who are going to watch this to walk away with something that they can actually be motivated from and learn from. YouTube, we can talk about that for 9 hours, but I think not everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Not everybody wants to be, I have friends of mine that just say, I hate being on camera. You do it like so easily. Yeah, I'm a media personality. I can, I've been on television, on the news. I can talk. I'm well spoken. All that comes easy for me. That's not easy for the average person. And then I actually teach people how to present themselves on camera. That's the biggest challenge for a lot of people is they're afraid and they get a little timid about being on camera. And I have, learned unique skills and tactics to ease the pain on that stuff. So YouTube for me or for anybody who wants to start a brand or something for themselves, just have to be realistic. If you can, and the last part of this whole thing is I'll say, if you can answer these three questions, the why, what, and how. Why, what, and how. Why do you do what you want to do? What are you going to do? And how are you going to do it? If you can answer those three things, it's going to literally map everything out for you. And you have to really answer those questions in a really deep way. Because when I ask somebody, why do you want to start a YouTube channel? Oh, because, I see all these YouTubers, they're making so much money. Okay, so it's money. You think YouTube is going to be money. Okay. What are you going to do? What kind of content on YouTube? Oh, I don't know. I mean, like they don't even know. How are you going to film your videos? How are you going to edit your videos? How are you going to schedule your videos? How are you going to do your videos? Well, I don't know. A buddy of mine, like, I know a guy who like shoots videos sometimes and like, I don't know, he's got like a computer. Like, they can't even answer it. And I go, I don't think you're ready to take this on yet. You really have, and if you are ready emotionally, then you have to really break it down and then approach it. Why, what, and how. And Marsha's asking, hate herself presenting on camera, like to progress, but that is a barrier for me. I admire the both. I appreciate that. Marsha, I'll give you one quick tip, and it's not about you. It's not about you being on camera and thinking that you're on a Hollywood movie production and messing up. It's more about your message. And once you take yourself out of the equation, like when I first started going out and doing interviews and interviewing people, and I mean, going to the Oscars and red carpet events and being, I was initially so focused on my looks. And I'm like, I'm a bald guy. Like, I'm not like this supermodel with like perfect hair. Like, people are going to judge me. And then I started to realize, you know what? And then people say, dude, who cares? You're so entertaining when I watch you. Like, you're so funny. You're so like, you're incredible on camera. I'm like, what do you mean? But like, how do I look? They're like, what are you even talking about? And then I realized, oh my God, it's not about me. It's about the message and the viewer. So when you take yourself out of the equation and focus on the content and the message, and the biggest tip of it all is when you look at the camera lens, look at the camera lens as if it's a person, as it's an eyeball of a person you're talking to, just like I'm talking to you right now. It's the person, that's the lens. It's the eyeball of a person, and just share that one person the message. Don't even think about, oh, I've got like a camera and a light on me, I'm going to screw up. No, you're not. If you were to sit there and talk to your cousin, your daughter, whatever it is, about how your day went, oh yeah, my day was great. I had breakfast and went to the gym, did my yoga class, and went food shopping, and had to take the kids to soccer. The same old thing. That you can't screw that up. You wouldn't be nervous talking about what you had for lunch or what you drank at happy hour. So focus on the message, and that the camera lens is the eyeball of someone that you're just trying to have a conversation with. This is information that literally I charge people $5,000, $10,000 a month for consulting for stuff like this. So I'm just sharing this as being just sharing.
Well, we
But
really appreciate you sharing that with us, Stephen, especially with all your experience and expertise. And I can definitely relate to that because when I first started recording content, now I've taught in person, I've taught on stage, I've taught in front of people, I've taught in colleges. And because I didn't see me as I was teaching, I was confident, I was vocal, I was loud. And I'd like to think I was reasonably amusing. But when I started recording content to put on my platform and I was watching content back on YouTube, I started deleting everything. I think I must have recorded at least 12 to 15 hours worth of content. And as I've watched it back to edit it, I deleted it because I hated how I looked. I hated how my teeth looked. I hated maybe how I sounded. And because my accent maybe mixes up sometimes, because the way I'm speaking now isn't how I would naturally speak locally. I'm trying to be a bit more careful with my words because I'm first language Welsh speaker. Sometimes my English actually isn't that well presented, and I'd pick up on a word that I've mispronounced, and then I'll end up deleting the content, and I've wasted so many hours worth of editing just because of that. And like the YouTube channel that I first had like 10 years ago, I deleted all the videos on there because it didn't look like how it looked and things. But the truth is now I've stopped watching myself back. I'll do the edits. I won't overthink the edits. I won't overlook at at what I'm editing. I just want to make sure that the timing's right and that the audio is right. And then once I've done the edit and I put it out there, I don't watch it back because I know if I watched it back, I'd probably delete it. I just want to make sure that when I do the takes, I do them well first time or as well as I possibly can. And I sort of edit as I go. So then when I do come to edit the videos before I put them up onto my platform, it's very minimal. I don't have to spend too much time on it and I don't have to watch myself too much. And then I put them out there and I just think as long as someone can take one thing from that helps them, I'm happy and I'm not going to worry about how I look or how I sound. So I do definitely know where you're coming from, Marcia, and I can relate to what you said there, Stephen. Thank you.
yeah. And lastly on that, and we can wrap up if you want. Lastly on that, do you realize that you speak better or more proper English, or I should say, I'm not talking like the Queens or something like that. I'm talking like your English is better than 90% of barbers here in the States. They talk very urban, very ghetto. They can't even, their pronunciations are wrong. They use slang. It's atrocious. And we can differentiate that between someone who's very well spoken and educated versus a street barber or someone who, like, yo, for real, yo, you know what I'm saying, dog? Like, yo, that whack, yo, like that kind of talk.
Gangster barbers.
Gangster thugs, thug barbers. That's like 90% of what we have here in the States.
It's
And
getting that way in the UK, to be honest. It is getting like that in the UK.
really,
Yeah, I
so
think the UK massively looks up to the USA and they try to follow the USA trends, the US trends. And you're starting to see a lot of the youngsters coming through talking like they're black gangsters and they're white guys from little villages, but they're talking to each other like yo, G and bro and all this, like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking to myself, mate, you're from South Wales, mate. What's wrong with you? I don't understand where you're getting this crap. But it's from social media, TikTok, and just I think that people watch too many movies, mate. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I really appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me because Welsh is my first language, and I've always held myself back from speaking publicly initially because I was worried that people couldn't understand me. And when I first started working, because I was working in builders merchants and in sales before I opened my first barber shop. But alongside doing that, I was coming home and cutting hair every night for friends and family. But while I was working in these businesses, people would make fun of my accent and make fun of how I was speaking. So it gave me a complex because my accent then was very different to how it is now because I just came through from a village and I had a just typical Welsh village accent. So when I was speaking then publicly to people and selling to people, my managers would make fun of me and they would criticize my speech. So that when I first got into barbering and I was asked to teach in person, I thought I can't because I can't talk. I don't understand how to talk. People don't understand me to the point now that when I'm with my family and I'm speaking to someone who doesn't know me, I would change my accent to make sure they can understand me. But my friends and family would look at me and go, why are you talking like that? Why are you speaking like that for? That's not how you speak. But I've learned habits and techniques that's made my speech more clear. So the fact that you've noticed that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, man. Yeah, you sound you know very well spoken. And a funny quick story. There's a girl who I know. She's from Wales originally, and I had a big crush on her, beautiful blonde girl, and I was like, oh my god, I see her on social media, and you know some banter back and forth, and I joked around, I said, hey, would you marry me one day? Just kidding around. She goes, well, yes, if I am, it's gonna be in Wales, and it's gonna be on this mountain, this top of a mountain or something, this huge, gorgeous church. You know what I'm talking about? It's like right there on the mountains in Wales. I can't remember where it is, but
So in
all you see.
Snowdonia, is it?
What's that?
Is it in Snowdonia? Snowdon? There's
Yeah,
loads of mountains in Wales.
and all you see in the background is mountains, and it's literally this church is like right here, and you walk, and you're at the edge of a cliff. Is that where that is? Yeah.
There's a few of them. There's a few of them scattered around the country, to be honest.
Okay. This one was like it was like a fantasy. She's like, this is a dream come true, and this and that. I said, oh boy. But it was just funny. So she's from Wales, and I used to joke around and pretend to like do a British accent, and she's like, I'm not English. I'm from Wales. It's different. She used to get so mad. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, but
So I take it
yeah,
you're
man.
not married.
Nah, I have a son. He's a bit older now. He's 29 now. I had him when I was very young. I was 20 and she was 19 when we had him, but we've gone on separate ways and stuff. But I'm actually happily single right now. I've had plenty of girlfriends and been with enough. I'm just like, it's not like I don't know what it's like. Trust me. I actually enjoy the break right now. I have a beautiful dog. um, who I say she's like my wife daughter, like I spent all my money on her. I can't afford a wife or a girlfriend right now, unfortunately. But because I've tended to spoil women. That's my problem. But yeah, but also it allows me to focus on my business and kind of make my own schedule and all that sort of stuff. But
So I'll ask you a quick question that I was going to base this interview around before we went into a mentoring meeting. But so what? And I don't want you to talk figures, but if you don't mind me asking, is YouTube your main income, or is it the products, or is it other things now you're finding that you're adjusting and adapting? You're finding there's other avenues of income that's better than you realize. What is your business model now?
right. So I had at one point a bit more extremes of income. Like since I cut out clients, that's a stream of income. Now, at one point, it was like being a hairdresser was my main thing. And then while I was a hairdresser, it was, launching a product line. And that was starting to bring in some side revenue. And then it was like getting my own studio. And then that was a side, like trying to incorporate and then doing projects for companies. So it was all like a mishmash of things to where right now it's so focused on my YouTube channel is one source of income. My hair product business is my second source of income. And that's pretty much it. I do have this really beautiful studio, which I'm not at now. This is my home office, but I have a beautiful production and media studio where I used to see private clients, which I've stopped at. So I'm in a kind of a bit of a pinch in a sense where I don't have, my space is not really generating income for me right now. It's allowing me to do things. So at one point I was renting my studio out for people to, film, photography, all that kind of stuff, because it's kind of set up for that. But YouTube, I would say at one point, and even currently, I would say it's like breaking into like the 100,000-ish threshold. And that's for me. Like I've definitely broken six figures before on YouTube, not like, but in like the 120K range. Now that could be a salary for one person. They'd be happy with that. Heck, they'd be living like they're a millionaire with that. That's actually great money. And then my hair product business is my main business. So I am a seven-figure business, but I've also gotten somewhat spoiled in a sense to where could I do all this stuff from home? I could, but I don't want to cut hair at home. I don't want to film videos at home. It's like my escape. But my hair product business, which is really the one thing I'm always nurturing and growing and expanding on and putting money into, is my hair product business. But YouTube is a good side gig. Now, again, I know that for some people, their dream is to make money on YouTube, and I know how difficult it can be. Some people make, $1,000 a year on YouTube. It just depends on your focus. If you start doing lots of brand deals, and I see them out there, I see people with like, 100,000 subscribers getting average, if that, ad revenue, but getting brand deals. And those brand deals could be $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a video, whatever the hell it is. It could be more than that. I don't know. But there are ways to, and then they build courses. So there's ways to, for multiple income streams as a content creator nowadays, as you know. So
do you have a private sort of teaching platform, or is all your stuff free on YouTube?
I just launched a Kajabi course platform, and it's doing awful, to be honest with you. I have the whole funnel set up where I offer a free training on, social media. I've been posting it on social media. It's like a 35-minute free video that I have on social media on building a brand on social media for no money, and for literally for you to spend no money. And then it funnels into, a full course, which is $99. And then I have some haircutting courses of like, you want to learn how to cut hair like me? Here's a $50 haircut video. And I go full in on it. It's a full step-by-step tutorial. I retired cutting hair at about $150 a haircut. And if I were to start cutting hair again, I would be 300 US per haircut, because of the fact that I have a line out the door and the value that I bring to cutting hair. I know what value I bring. And you know what it is? Not doing circus acts when I'm cutting hair. Not doing freakish haircuts where I'm hanging from a ceiling, and using a chainsaw. It's the 90% of the haircuts that I've done where people come in and spend the 150 and then they tip 50, whatever. It's balancing out a poorly layered haircut. It's a fix-up and patch-up job. I call it reconstructive surgery. Patch-up work is what a lot of the success I've done. It's being able to dissect a haircut, give them a proper haircut, and then help them experience what it's like to have a good haircut. Then they're hooked,
That's exactly my perspective. I'm not quite charging what you're charging, but I've got a different business model, but I'm booked up weeks and weeks in advance. My customers love me. Every time I put my prices up, they're happy to pay it. Some customers even saying to me, put your prices up, so I can't get in with you. It's too hard to book in with you. And I think that, and just like you said, I think the difference between me and others is that I know how to make hair fit that person and how it should be sitting, rather than giving them what I think Instagram wants to see, and I think that's why I've been successful within my barbershops.
You should at least be 50 to 75 quid minimum.
Mm. I think if
Are
I
you,
was in a bigger town or city, I would be. I know I've competed against barbers who are charging £100 a haircut, and I've beaten them in competitions. And then I go back to my little town in Wales, and I'm charging £20 a haircut.
oh God, that's hurt. That hurts. Are you pound or what's your currency?
Yes, we're pounds, but I'm still the most expensive in the area, but by at least £5 a haircut. That's how
Wow.
far behind we are.
But I mean, so I trained at Vidal Sassoon in London over at Mayfair and Knightsbridge many, many years ago.
I know it. I know it.
Yeah, right on right near the Bond Street stations, the one of them, and then the one in Knightsbridge, that near that damn huge department store over there.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember years ago, yeah, Harrods, yeah. I said, what's a good wage, a good annual wage for someone here in the UK, in England? She's like, well, it depends. If you're London, 50, 60,000 quid a year. But this was like 2011, I mean, a long time ago. I don't know if you're here in New Jersey, specifically New York, California. It's almost impossible to live unless you're making $120,000 salary, 100K, whatever it is. It's impossible to live here nowadays. I don't know what the cost of living is over by you. Is it more than London? Is it less than London? Is it
It's a lot less than London, but it's going up very fast. London, I think if I was working in London, I'd probably be around the 150, £200 a haircut mark. Um, to sort of balance out to what I'm earning now. But bear in mind, I charge £22 a haircut, but I do three an hour. So it's not too bad. I'm making about
wow?
£66 an hour. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
That's a
other
lot.
barbers, and this is what I'm trying to teach. Other barbers are teaching slow your haircuts down, take a lot longer, charge a bit more. So they're thinking they're really cool, charging £25 a haircut, but it takes them an hour and a half. Well, I'm doing three an hour for £22 a haircut. That's the difference. But um, it is changing around here, especially after COVID and things. Things are becoming a lot more expensive.
Right.
Um, but I've got a good team of barbers around me. They pay me good chair rental. I don't necessarily have to work, but I've got such a big clientele that I don't like to let down. And I like getting out of the house because my missus hates me. And I'm no, I'm joking, But I like being in the shop. I think even if I won the lottery tomorrow and made £10 million, I'd still cut hair 2 days a week just because I like the atmosphere, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, and we'll wrap it up with this. For
Okay.
me, I just felt that I was becoming too dependent on other people's schedules, especially seeing private clients. And I had some heavy, heavy hitters, man. I mean, I'm talking, big CFOs, CEOs, a couple of actors on like I was doing Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things and that big hit Netflix show Stranger Things. He found me on YouTube. He's like, "Hey, I see all your YouTube videos. Can you cut my hair like those TikTok haircuts you're doing?" I'm like, "Okay." It got to the point where he just kept having to cancel. I said, "I don't." I got to the point I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm just so sick of basing my life off of other people's schedules. And because I have so much else going on, you know what I mean? Like if I was just being a hairstylist all day, that is my life. But for me, at this stage, I'm in 100% control of my life and my schedule, unless I have other, engagements. Like I book things like this or, I make time for certain things. But and I was so afraid, Matthew, you understand? I was so emotionally afraid to tell my last to start telling my clients that I'm going to be stopping. These are people who literally I've been doing their hair for many, many years. I was their guy. I was giving them their confidence. I was fitting them in, giving them a full private experience, one-on-one. I mean, these people felt like $1 million. And I had to tell them, and they were like, "Oh my, are you kidding me?" And then like no one can cut a hair like you, Steven. No one can cut hair like you, bro. Please come back. I'm sorry, I'm done. And it was so freeing to give that up. So freeing to give that up,
This is something that
So
concerns me because I do like shop planting. And if I want to plant a shop somewhere else, if I see potential in an area and I think, oh, it needs a barber shop there, I go there first. I'll dedicate 2 or 3 days a week there. I'll build the clientele. I'll set the standard from the start. And then I'll bring a person in, I'll train them up. And then eventually I leave them there and move on. But I'm becoming so busy in every shop I go to now that at some point I'm leaving someone down somewhere. And I can see how it's frustrating people. They can't get in with me and they can see how busy I am and you can see how much it affects them. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking my goal is to make the Barber Coach TV so busy that I never have to cut hair again. If I do cut hair, it's because I choose to cut hair. If I do go in 1 or 2 days a week, it'll be for the people who have been with me from day one when I was learning how to cut hair in my mother's garage. Do you know what I mean? Who
right.
still cut me today. I'll still do it for them because it's what I've always done, is what they've always expected. But I don't want to have to cut hair anymore. And it's a big part of me is thinking, how on earth am I going to leave these people down?
That's it. And you know what's interesting? This is what I'm going to share with you is probably one of the most important bits of this whole interview we've been doing. I've learned this the hard way. I had somebody tell me this advice. I didn't believe it until I experienced it. I was sharing my opinion with somebody who actually retired, a hairdresser, and I said, boy, what's it like to retire? Like walking away from your clientele, like that must have been so brutal. He goes, when you walk away from them, they will forget you and you will never hear from them again. I'm like, oh, what are you? Do you realize how many people I have? We're like brothers, we're like family. They tell me all their secrets. They tell me, nope. Once you're done with them, they are checked out. They only want you for your service. I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's 1,000,000% true.
Wow.
1,000,000% true. I've had people who I was so close with, they would tell me stuff, the cheating, the vacations, they would tell me things that they wouldn't even tell a priest.
Hmm.
And they would share with me, and then one day they can't come in, or one day they choose to not come anymore. Something it is, I never hear from them again. And now that's the majority of clients. There are some clients that I still keep in touch with here and there, but they're not reaching out to me. And if they do, it's like, 5 out of the hundreds upon hundreds of clients that I've had. I have maybe still a somewhat close relationship with maybe 5 to 10 people. They will forget you faster than you can even imagine.
Well, I'm going to hold on to that because if that moment ever comes, I think I'm going to play this back in my head and just use that as the motivation to say, right.
And it's
And
not,
that's enough.
it's hard to accept that. And it doesn't mean you're a jerk. It doesn't mean, but it's the true reality. It's the
Yeah,
true
you're right.
reality.
Yeah, you are right. Well, look, Stephen, I can't thank you enough for your time, your experience, your knowledge, your mentorship. I didn't expect you to go down this road, but it's been so valuable. I just don't think the members of the Barber Coach TV realize what we've got here. This is gold, mate. So I can't thank you enough. I really, really appreciate it. And if I ever get the chance to do this again, it would be a dream come true, mate, because I've learned so much from you today. It's helped me. If it doesn't help any of my subscribers, it's helped me. And I think I'm going to take all your advice and try to stick to my ethics, my principles, and go back to just becoming a good educator.
Yep. Same. Yep. Exactly. And try that new content creation approach that I share with you. 10 seconds. And if you're going to do a comparison video, show you doing it the proper way. And then that's going to give you the credibility instead of feeling like, like for example, I found that video of the ear getting sliced off with the thinning shears.
Yeah.
I saw you react to it. I said, oh my God, I think I saw it from you first. I was like, whoa. And then I haven't posted that or done any sort of reaction to that as an experiment, because again, I'm direct to consumer. People would, that's a huge shock value and that could go viral for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to experiment and post that video of me going, have you ever had your ear cut when getting a haircut?
Mm.
Do you realize the amount of responses and engagement I'm going to get just on that tactic alone? So, changing your approach and changing your strategy, I think would be game changing for you.
Have you got time for me to ask you one more bit of advice, one more
Yeah.
question?
Yep.
So I mean, I've been trying to do like social media courses to try and find a way of best presenting myself and reaching a target audience. And they keep talking about hooks, the ways to hook people in. Now, I've always just been me. I've always just been myself, and I'd start a video with, "Oh, do you want to learn how to skin fade better?" Or for instance, or for example, or have you ever had your ear cut in a barber shop? Would you just keep it natural, or would you put the video up first and then switch to you? Do you try and put the hook in, or do you just give yourself first to the camera?
You yeah, you have it depends. You have to the hook is the most important thing. You have 3 seconds to hook someone.
Oh, okay.
So the hook can't come 45 seconds into a video. They're gone already. That's why I do short 10-second videos that it forces them to go back and rewatch it over and over and over. That one person can watch the video 40 times in a row. Next thing you know, you have 10 people doing that. The algorithm's like, oh, something's going on here. So the hook is really important. If you watch, Mr. Beast, or you watch a lot of other big YouTubers, I'm talking like entertainment YouTubers, like what are they doing to catch your attention? Even people on Instagram, like even people on, like there's this girl here in the same state that I am who works in a pizzeria. She's young, probably like 18 maybe. Drop that gorgeous blonde girl. I mean, she's mesmerizing how pretty she is. And she shows videos of her making pizza at her like family's pizzeria, but she chops it up so quickly, and the way it's like almost like hypnotizing. You can't take your eyes off it. But it's the first 3 seconds of how you grip people. So you have to grip them with whether it's you saying something, like you are not going to believe this. That's like the first thing. Okay, what's going on here? Or you start with like a tragedy, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Look at this. It's like, all right, you're hooked already. I want to see the worst thing I've ever seen. Or, if you start with, today I'm going to show you how to do a barber fade, that may catch on to some people, but it depends on the context and the type of the environment of what your video you're trying to create. So each hook can be very, very different. The hook for you, like I said in the reaction videos, is this is what you don't do. Show the video of what you don't see. This is how you do it. 10 seconds of you doing it. So the video itself could be a 15, 20-second video, and then you're done. But the
I
hook
really
has to,
appreciate this.
yeah. Don't take social media courses. This whole video is a social media course.
Well, I've learned that now. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting it to go this way, but I am very, very grateful. I appreciate you charge people a lot of money for this. But I just want you to know that it's added a lot of value to my knowledge, my experience, and hopefully my business. So I can't thank you enough, Stephen.
Yeah. And I'm going to keep an eye out for you, and I'm challenging you. And well, and you see, my focus has been you. The viewers are kind of like, what comes with the experience, right? My focus is sharing content with you to possibly inspire others and teach other people. I want to share stuff with you because you're giving me this platform. So I want to bring you direct value. So I think but I'm challenging you now professionally and personally to commit to trying this form of content, because I know it's going to work for you. And the amount of advice I've given to people who don't do it and they don't take my advice is the majority. Just like I've been told from the people that I reached out to who told me to reach out to them, they say 98% of people who I've told to reach out to me don't. That's why you're different. That's why you're going to be successful, because you're doing what the average person does. I told you to call me at this time and you did it. So I'm challenging you. I want to see something from you.
And I'll be taking every single word you've said on board. I've always looked up to you, and the fact that you give me this advice means the world to me, and I will be using it. And hopefully, I'll make you proud, and it'll work out well. I do hope.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up now, Stephen. I can't thank you enough. Today has been so valuable, and if it's not helped any of my subscribers, it's definitely helped me. But I'm sure they can take a lot from this if they do want to take a step into the world of social media and YouTube. So God bless. Thank you very much, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, and hello to everyone who's going to be watching this, and thanks for everything you're doing, and keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, mate. Take care.
You too.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.